women putting chemicals in their hair and the few men that do, you know, how that affects the brain because the body is eating it. The skin is the largest organ on the body and it's porous. So people think that, oh, it's not hurting me if I get a perm. Oh, yes, it is. Because if they would have an ad on the box saying that it is potentially harmful to a fetus in your womb, what do you think it's doing to your brain? You know, and so, and having a neighbor who worked at the morgue in Atlanta, he was telling me how there is a thick, greenish, grayish gook that forms on the skull, in between the scalp and the skull from perms. The chemicals that seep down in the scalp, it has nowhere to go. So he says he only sees it on women that have perms or men that have perms. Now that may be black or white, but the majority of people that are wearing perms are black. So clearly this is causing brain damage, aneurysms, and a whole host of other illnesses that can directly be traced back to that. But because it's a multi-million-dollar industry, the hair industry, you know, people are not really addressing it. And because our women, particularly here in America, are not happy with our hair. You know, they want to have hair like everybody else. So there's this billion-dollar industry of our women wearing everybody else's hair. Oh my goodness, this is my hair. You want to have long hair? Grow your own, you know? But the deal is, if you're buying somebody else's hair and you're putting it on you, not only are you creating a false image of yourself, but then you're also contributing to a sense of denial of self for future generations, because the children, that's what they see, that's what they know, and that's what they become, because they don't know any better, they don't know any different. And it would be different if our sisters were celebrating the diversity that we can create as a result of our naturally nappy, kinky, curly hair. But most of our sisters are doing it because they hate their naturally nappy, curly, kinky hair. And it's a different motivation. You know, I mean, we could take that even into what we're feeding our skin for those of our people who use the bleaching chemicals. You know, putting that in to make their melanin lighten up. Really? So haven't we learned enough about that, you know, over time, such that our people are now bleaching their skin? They're taking pills to bleach their skin. In fact, there was a woman, one of my clients, a Nigerian woman, who was selling the product. And phanthanione, that's the latest chemical that suppresses, I think it suppresses either the pituitary gland or pineal gland, whichever one is responsible for producing melanin, it suppresses that so that the body stops producing it and it lightens the skin. And you know, it's causing a real problem all over the world. Emotionally, we become toxic because one, we have not healed from post-traumatic slave syndrome. So we act in ways that are counterproductive to health. We mistreat each other, we talk to each other in horrible ways. We do not have integrity in our dealings with each other. In fact, what we're experiencing now as moral decay amongst Black people is a direct result, in my opinion, of the confusion between integration and assimilation. Because when our people had the opportunity to integrate, we did not functionally integrate. There's nothing wrong with being a functional integrationist. That's what intelligent people do. They go where they need to go, get what they need to get, and they bring it back to their community and strengthen their community. But when we are confused and think that assimilation is integration, then we have the situation that we're in now, where we assimilate into a larger society or a dominant society behavior pattern. We then begin to take on the characteristics of that dominant society. Now, at the time in which integration was passed as a law, morally, white America was bankrupt. They were very, very low in their moral standards. Clearly, what was the enslavement process about if that was not a low moral place that they were coming from? So when you're asking to become equal to a person who is already low in their moral standards, you can't do anything but lower in yours. That's what equality means. It doesn't always mean you're going to upgrade. It means that you're going to reach the level of that you are trying to become equal to. They say water seeks its own level. Okay. So we abandon our communities, abandon our businesses, abandon our schools, abandon our morals to adapt to something that we thought was better. But even Dr. King said, I fear that I have led my people into a burning house. He knew. First, he didn't know. But when he became hip to it, that's when they realized they had to kill him, because he was clear that what we thought was a better way was really not the better way. And I'm not promoting segregation. What I am promoting is the ability to judge, to use discernment, and all of that being based upon our ancient principles of Ma'at. Our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, left us a code of ethics and behavior. We do not have to look outside of our own culture to figure that out. And worst case scenario, if you can't read, what is your heart telling you? Your heart will tell you the difference between right and wrong. Now, you may ignore it all day long and be in ignorance. However, that doesn't change the fact that you know the difference between right and wrong. So that having been said, it really brings the onus back to us as a people. Everything that I have built my business upon has been based upon the principles of Ma'at, which is balance, harmony, justice, integrity, righteousness, and the Nguzo Saba, which are the 7 principles of the Kawaida, or what we know as the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So what is that? Umoja, unity; Kujichagulia, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility; Ujamaa, cooperative economics; Nia, purpose; Kuumba, creativity; and Imani, faith. We're not to relegate that to 7 days after Christmas so that we can now have the Black Christmas. No, that is a code of ethics, a code of standard to live by. It's not rocket science. It's real basic. And guess what? Other races, other cultures live by those same principles. They just use their own terminology to describe it. So when I think about what our people need to be about in terms of feeding ourselves so that we can actually thrive into the future and beyond, I think about our not only physical food intake, but our mental intake, our spiritual intake, and our emotional intake. We have to first and foremost love our way through these times, starting with love of self. Love of self does not mean hatred of someone else. Unfortunately, when people of African descent start to love themselves, then we're labeled as being anti-other people. No, that's just from other people's insecurity and fear that we'll begin to love ourselves so much that we will outshine them. So as a result, we tend to start dimming our own light because we don't want to outshine other people. But as Marianne Williamson said in the Course of Miracles, and then Nelson Mandela used her lines in his inaugural speech, we do not serve the world when we dim our light. In fact, when we shine, we give others permission to shine. Then we all shine, and thus the light is brighter. I am paraphrasing, but look it up. Don't just take my word for it. Look it up. So as we as a people become stronger, the world will become a healthier place, because it's our nature to be compassionate and humanitarian. The powers that be are simply afraid that we're going to retaliate in kind in the way in which they subjugated us. It's not in our people's heart to do that. There are some who would, and you already know. But overall, our people are compassionate and forgiving people. So once balance has been restored, the harmony of all humankind will prevail. But that's going to take some time because we have a lot of work to do, And here at our restaurant, we open the doors to whomever wants a healing. But I recognize that you got to take care of home first. And ultimately, that's why so many white folks, I think, really embrace my philosophy in particular, which is the philosophy of many people. And it is that I am about healing our people first. I'm not busy blaming them. They know what their history is. They already know. Why do we have to keep running that in the ground? That becomes a broken record, and repetition does not help us to grow. Many of the ones that come here to support the business are trying to correct the karma of their ancestors. So as Malcolm said, yes, send them out to heal their own people. Rebellion can be a good thing, depending on what you're rebelling about. But if you're a rebel without a cause and you just being a rebel because, then you basically seal your own doom, because the way the industrial prison complex is set up, it is designed to take people of color, specifically our people, who may not even be rebelling, but may just not have the money to pay a traffic ticket, and locking them up and causing them to become basically slaves again.